This week's topic is top 5 characters whose fitness regime you want. And first up, is Lara Croft.
People don't understand that women, especially, we like playing as attractive characters. If it's a dude or if it's a girl, okay? With power fantasy for a guy is like being really strong and stuff. Power fantasy for a girl is being very attractive.
War game release, we feel like this is a perfect time for a God of War workout. And
we're gonna be talking about how to get arms like Leon Kennedy. So if you want bigger arms, this is the video for you.
I wanna know what the hell he eats. So here is the Leon Kennedy diet plan.
Leon S. Kennedy train in real life to look and perform the way that he does in Resident Evil 4 and beyond. Well, it just happens to be the exact same way you should be training. If you want to build a jacked body capable of amazing athletic performance, just like gaming's #1 Chad, Leon, I'll be giving you all the information you need, including a full training plan so you can train like the God of War.
I'm tired of this movement that is supposed to be female empowerment to take female characters in video games and make them uglier.
With video game characters in recent years, particularly the female ones, a process that probably has a far more technical name, but which a simple man like myself can best describe as uglification.
Why female characters are getting progressively uglier and uglier. People are apparently not a fan of this.
Jesus, look at the state of it. I don't think anyone wants to go on an adventure with this girl.
Have you ever fought with a sibling or a friend over who gets to play a certain character in a video game? Most of the time, it's the strongest looking character, or the one we think is the most attractive. Most of us grew up playing video games, especially if you were born in the early 2000s, during the rise of PlayStation, Wii, Xbox, and PC gaming. But have you ever stopped to think about why we choose certain characters, and how video games might be shaping the way we see ourselves and our bodies? So, today I want to talk about how video games influence our body image, why it matters, and why this experience differs across genders and ages. As a kid, my favorite video game genre was dress-up games, where you could style characters in whatever outfits you wanted. I loved them, but I never realized how much I subconsciously compared my body and myself to the characters I was dressing up. I didn't think about how that might have affected my body image or self-esteem until now. When I started researching this topic and revisiting these fashion games, I noticed that almost none of the characters had different body types. And honestly, even if they did, I think I would have still chosen the ideal one, the one that fit into traditional beauty standards. Fashion games often targeted at female players give the illusion of customization, but most still reinforce the same narrow beauty ideal. Slim figure, long legs, symmetrical faces, and flawless skin. That says a lot about the psychology behind this topic. But this issue isn't just about fashion games or female players. It's also deeply embedded in combat video games, which are often played by male gamers.
Why do I look like you?
In what way?
Like, bigger. When do I get muscles like yours?
When you work for them.
But Baldur was really strong, and he didn't have any muscles.
My strength does not come from my body, but both are honed by discipline.
What's that mean?
Means you've got the strength of a god no matter what, lad. But if you want the physique of one, you'd better start picking heavy things up and putting them back down.
Male protagonists in video games are usually hypermuscular, like Kratos from God of War, or tall and lean, like Leon Kennedy from Resident Evil. These characters reinforce the idea that strength, power, and athleticism define what a real man should look like. For younger players who idealize these characters, that can be just as damaging as unrealistic female body standards. There is actually an ongoing debate about whether male body standards in video games are even more unrealistic than female ones. Some argue that the superhuman physiques of male characters set impossible expectations for men, just as fashion games do for women. So why do we as humans feel the urge to play as characters who look like the ideal version of beauty or strength? This desire to embody an ideal version of ourselves affects how we see our own bodies. Think about it. There are hundreds of YouTube videos dedicated to teaching people how to look like their favorite video game characters. Workout routines, diet plans, how to get arms like Kratos, a small waist like Lara Croft, or an Assassin's Creed's body. But here's the problem. We all have different genetics. Even if you follow these routines perfectly, some people might get close to that ideal look, while others won't, because that's just how our bodies work, and that's something we don't talk about enough. As I researched this topic, I came across an article titled Video Games, Body Image, and Masculinity. It talks about how video games influence body image and reinforce unrealistic beauty standards, especially among young gamers. Both male and female characters in games are often designed with exaggerated, unattainable physiques. Women are hypersexualized for the male gaze, and men embody hyper-masculine ideals. There are actual studies proving the impact this has on players. One study at the University of Minnesota by Hannah Murphy. This study found that young players who engage with perfect video game characters tend to compare their own bodies to them, leading to body dissatisfaction over time. Another study at Temple University on sexualization and harassment. This study explored how over-sexualized female characters in games contribute to real-world sexism and harassment. It's not just about body image, it's about how these portrayals shape societal behavior. So video games aren't just entertainment, they actively shape how we view ourselves and others. Despite having the resources to be more inclusive, the gaming industry still prioritizes profit over representation. Female characters remain hypersexualized while male characters are exaggeratedly muscular. This lack of diversity reinforces unrealistic beauty standards and toxic masculinity. And when games do try to include more diverse body types, there is almost always backlash. Videos like the uglification of video game characters and female game developers make everything ugly show how resistant some people are to change. But why? Why do so many people hate seeing more realistic, diverse bodies in video games? That's a question we need to ask ourselves more often. Some critics argue that video games should prioritize creative freedom over inclusivity, and that adding more diverse body types is unnecessary or even ruins the aesthetic appeal of a game. They believe characters should look ideal because it enhances the fantasy experience. However, this argument assumes that diversity and creative freedom are mutually exclusive. If anything, expanding representation can lead to richer storytelling and a more inclusive gaming community. This is especially important for young gamers who are still forming their self-image. Being constantly exposed to these unrealistic ideals can lead to a long-term body dissatisfaction and even mental health issues. And here's the thing, game developers have the power to change this. They can create more inclusive characters and move away from outdated stereotypes. But it's not just up to them, it's up to us as players to demand better representation. So to sum this video up, video games aren't just about having fun. They shape how we see ourselves and others. From unrealistic beauty standards to toxic masculinity, the impact is real, but it doesn't have to be this way. Let's start a conversation. What do you think? Have you ever felt pressured to look like a video game character? Do you think this is a problem that we need to discuss more often, or do you see it as just a part of the gaming culture?